Welcome everyone to another Conversations in the Void. I'm your host, Graver, joined as always with my off-screen producer, Salem. Make sure to say hi to them in the chat. I am pleased to introduce our guest for tonight. He is pretty much a newcomer in the industry with some spots here and there, but please welcome to the show, the one and only Callum Yeater.
How's it going?
Good. How about you?
I am doing better than I deserve.
Well, thank you. I know we've been working on this date for a couple of months now, and it's finally here. So welcome.
I appreciate you having me on.
Of course. So kind of before we get into kind of like meat and potatoes of what the general show is, I'd like to learn a little bit more about you, Cal. What really brought you into the movie world of saying like, hey, I want to pursue this as my passion or career?
Well, okay, so I had two friends growing up, and one of them went off to start. He started working for HBO as a producer, and his brother went off to become a national recording artist.
Okay.
And they've always been offering me like, hey, do you want to come here, do background, fill in. And, eventually I finally was like, screw it, I'll give it a try. And, so far I've done 2 shows for HBO. I've done the Righteous Gemstones. I've done Vice Principals. I was in a very small scene in Halloween Kills, but, I'm still trying to get further in.
Mm-hmm.
It's no turning back now.
So, I mean, so that kind of brought you into that world then. Was that something you wanted to pursue before they went into that?
It was never something I really made as a goal.
Mm-hmm.
I've just always been told that, hey, you've got this look, we want to use you. And it almost was forced, to be honest. But ever since I finally said, fuck it, I've been having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. Well, that's what's important, right? It's... you have the hardworking actors that work every single day of their career, but they're not necessarily always the forefront. So not everyone's gonna be the Brad Pitt or the De Niro's or anything like that. But it's the people that are also there, the secondary, the backgrounds that are just as important too, because they help fill in the shot, right?
Right. I'm not trying to be next George Clooney. You know what I mean?
You say you don't want to make the worst Batman movie of all time?
I want to make the second worst Batman movie of all time.
Okay.
Somehow make it happen.
There you go. So how long in total have you been kind of doing this?
I mean, honestly, it's been about 6 or 7 years. And I, for a while, I was doing it, and then I started getting into this work limbo because, I've always been a workaholic.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had, at least 2 jobs going on at one time, and I guess I just wanted to break away from that. I've been working hard, since I was 15 years old, and I haven't had anything to show for it. So I'm trying to go a different direction in my life.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. Have you taken any workshops in acting and kind of honing your skill with that as well? I know you said you're busy with work.
Not at all. I just somehow I got noticed by some people, and here I am.
Well, I mean that's a big feat in itself, because some people just can't get noticed too, which is good. You're close to that Georgia area where a lot of filming is still taking place, and where most movies are made in this country right now at this point in time. So how do you get into the casting calls? Are you on backstage, or you just kind of through word of mouth then?
It was originally a buddy of mine. He introduced me to a local casting director here in Charleston, and ever since then, it's once I got on when I was on Vice Principals, I only did maybe 2-3 scenes, but once I got on to Righteous Gemstones, I'm all over season 4. I haven't watched it, but I filmed about 7 or 8 different times for season 4.
Okay.
It's honestly, it's been really amazing. I've gotten to work with, I've gotten to do small group scenes with John Goodman, Walton Goggins. I've gotten to do scenes with Georgia King.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been a great experience.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think this is the last. So you're on the last season then of Righteous Gemstones, because the series is done now with season 4, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. So what was that like, knowing that you are on a major HBO show?
It's very surreal, seeing myself and knowing that I am on, 2 different shows that starred Walton Goggins. That's big. Both man, it's been that's really cool to have worked with him twice.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah, it's the industry is a fascinating beast, to say the least. With HBO down to we do a lot of independent, small budget horror films, and it's fun. We travel across the country. We're going to Connecticut here in a month to start filming. I think it's our 15th movie for the production team. So, it's interesting to do that.
It always is. You get the travel, you get, usually the food's pretty good. Oh man, I remember they had prime rib when I filmed on Vice Principals, and it was primo.
Really?
Oh yeah, I'm a steak man.
That's good though. That's good. Yeah, like I said, we're small budget. We don't have catering. The catering's us, so we just have to. I don't know what we're doing for food for that week. I should talk to the director. Love to figure that out. So,
well, most people aren't too picky.
Yeah, it's very, very true. So, what with everything you're working on, do you have anything coming up here that you're working on that you're allowed to talk about? Have you had to sign any NDAs as of yet?
Not just yet. I'm actually in talks with a director. He's based out of Florence, South Carolina, I believe. He's got a project going on around July. He's saying he wants to possibly use me on, but I've got no details on it yet. He just said he's going to keep in touch.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you grow up? Did you do anything with acting or with film or theater at all up until your buddies went into HBO?
With fear?
With film? Or stage or anything like that?
No, not at all. Never. It just all started falling into my lap.
Now, that make you nervous? Do you like being public eye or even public speaking?
I've done public speaking. I don't mind doing it. It's not really my forte, but I'll do it.
Yeah, that's good though. That's good. I think it's a skill to hone and everything like that. So, kind of what has been like a kind of like this weird moment for you, other than being on HBO, that makes you go, like, I didn't understand or didn't know this about, filming, whether a TV show or a movie, that you knew that you now know. Was a big surprise for you?
You're actually breaking up. I only heard like a little bit of that.
Huh. I don't think I'm breaking up. Okay, so is there anything that you learned about that you're surprised to learn about while doing this for 6 or 7 years?
Well, of course, I've learned pantomiming. I've, learned how to project, emotions. Like, I originally was, I really want to get into voice acting, and believe it or not, that actually it's acting.
Yes.
No matter what. I've just, yeah, I've learned, I've learned how to follow directions. Oh yeah, like especially when you have to do like smaller scenes. Like I did a birthday party scene with Sean William Scott. It was just me and a couple of other extras, so I had to be on my P's and Q's for that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, how many takes do you think you did for your scenes altogether?
Usually, it's always usually between 1 to 2 takes. Like they've been pretty happy with the scenes that I've been involved in.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you always, it's never, generally one, especially with what it's the small independent stuff. You always have, you shoot one, then you shoot one more for safety, just to make sure you have two different pieces to it. So that's cool though.
Oh yeah, like I'm trying to figure out why you're going in and out. Like you sound like a robot half the time. What's going on here?
Let me. Salem, if you're in the chat, in the private chat, if I sound that way to you, just to make sure it's nothing on my end, please and thank you. Interesting. I hear a buzz, but I don't think that's me. But let's see here.
Okay, John. Guy said
Yep.
you sound fine to him.
Yep.
It must be my connection because I haven't had this problem before. Usually, works just fine.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, we'll roll with what we got then. So with what you're working on, what's your ideal genre to work in? You've done some TV shows, kind of comedy dramas. So what's kind of like genre you'd like to be able to work in?
I would like to get into comedy as well as like psychological horror. Movies where they got plot twists that you'll never expect.
Mm-hmm.
Like some Secret Window kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, do you consider yourself a big horror fan then?
I'm not gonna say that I've been the biggest horror fan. Like, of course, I've watched Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy versus Jason, but I'm more of a comedy and sci-fi guy.
Okay.
Yeah, like I'll sit there and go through I'll sit there and do a marathon of like the Back to the Future movies, the Harry Potter movies. Like, I'm really a big nerd.
So then do you think, the best comedy of all time then?
I would have to say Grandma's Boy.
Grandma's Boy. Okay.
Grandma's Boy is one of my favorite movies ever made. It's sad that it never got any kind of sequel.
Yeah. I mean, it was a Friends of Adam Sandler produced movie, like Zookeeper and all the Rob Schneider stuff that he's done. But I thoroughly enjoy that movie. I think that was kind of my first introduction to Jonah Hill. Was in Grandma's Boy.
Jonah Hill was he was only in like one scene with McLovin, and then they disappeared.
He was in Grandma's Boy. He had the milkmaid.
I'm gonna have to watch it again. It's been a couple of years. I feel I'm embarrassed. I don't remember Jonah Hill being in there like a lot.
No, I said this was my first introduction to him, though. I think that that might have been before Superbad. I'm pretty sure it was.
I think my introduction to Jonah Hill was Django Unchained.
Okay. Interesting. Now, you talk about sci-fi, too. So you talk about Back to the Future and Harry Potter, what do you think is the best sci-fi franchise, then?
Ooh, I will have to say Star Trek The Next Generation. Geordi LaForge, Worf, Beta. That's what I grew up with. Some Stargate SG-1.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was never really a Star Wars guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have the symbol for Terra on my back from Stargate SG-1, the chevron. And so I have that, and then I got my wife and kids their Stargate symbol, that's a chevron, with their birthday on my leg as well. So that's my nerdy homage to them.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it was fun. It was. I'm like, you know what? Aliens ever come get me, they know where to return me. I have the symbol for Earth. All good. That's so. What about sci-fi though? Do you want to be like heavy in with the special effects and CGI, or you just kind of like the idea of just being kind of like a main guy in something? Would you prefer like a movie or TV show as well?
I'd just rather be a main guy. Like, I don't really want to, CGI, in my opinion, is, really ruining a lot of franchises. You
Mm-hmm.
know, when you reboot an old franchise and bring it back and add all the CGI, it's not the same anymore. Like, give me the practical effects. I
Yeah.
actually want to work.
Yeah. That's we've done nearly 100 episodes of the show, and I always think that in there somewhere, and everyone has pretty much said practical is the best.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's from writers, directors, actors, production designers, artists.
Yeah, that's why I want to, honestly, I would love to get involved with trauma.
Mm,
Nothing really gets more practical than trauma.
right. Yeah. He does it out of necessity and cheapness because it's cheaper to do than paying someone to do it all on a computer.
Exactly. I'm just afraid. I want to watch this new Toxic Avenger movie with Peter Dinklage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to expect just yet. Like, I've been waiting for it, and somebody finally got uh, what's the word I'm looking for? The rights to
Distribute.
Thank you, the distribution rights. So
Mm-hmm.
it's coming to theaters, but I'm just afraid, because it's not the original Toxie. It's not really Lloyd Kaufman's work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to expect from Peter Dinklage or Kevin Bacon. I just really hope they don't destroy the legacy of Toxie.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think my first introduction to Toxic Avenger was, I think it was on like Monster Vision or Late Night with Joe Bob Briggs, and then we had the cartoon as well in
The
the early
Toxic
'90s.
Crusaders?
Yeah,
Oh man, that would ruin a lot of childhoods. Kids that watched that and then they tried watching the movies and they're like, "What the fuck is this?"
vastly different.
Oh yeah. One of them's for kids, the other one not so
Mhm.
much.
But it was the '80s, '90s. We did that all the time with this. We had a RoboCop cartoon. We had I think we had a couple of cartoons that were just based off of R-rated properties all the time. So just kind of
Well,
what we did then.
well, yeah, but it's a little different with something like trauma because there's blood, guts, shit everywhere.
Mhm.
Like it was purposely grotesque, and to translate that to a kid's cartoon, I if it works, it works. But I don't know. It didn't seem like a good deal.
Yeah, yeah. Now, if you were, talk about trauma, but what about like a sci-fi show? Because I just watched something today on my lunch break about them potentially bringing back Sliders.
I am not familiar with sliders.
Jerry O'Connell, John Rhys Davis, they traveled to the multiverse through a portal. It was, I think, 1995 to 2000. Um, it's a good sci-fi show in my opinion. I thoroughly enjoyed it when it came out.
In 1995.
Yeah,
Interesting. I might have to check this out.
I highly suggest it. If you like sci-fi shows, it's think like Stargate meets Quantum Leap.
Yeah, because I like, alternate universes,
Mhm.
dimensions, you know, sky's the limit. Like, Marvel really surprised me with what they did with Spider Man No Way Home. Like, that
Yeah,
was great.
yeah, for sure. Now, if you could work in an existing IP or franchise at sci-fi, what would it be? What would be your ideal one to do?
Oh, man. I never really even thought of that. because I love I love I grew up on Star Trek.
Hmm.
Stargate's over with. Uh, I wouldn't mind them bringing back Revolution.
Okay.
Like, did you ever watch Revolution?
I watched half of the first season, and then these people were way too clean for that time period, and the grass was too well kept for me.
That's a show I really enjoyed, and I'm still angry till this day that they took it off the air. I
Hmm.
would have also have loved to be in Firefly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Firefly was a good one. I never really could get into Doctor Who. That was a little out there for me. Uh, I'm trying to think because, like, honestly, I'm not really caught up on newer television shows. I'm pretty much stuck back in like the late 90s, early 2000s era.
Hmm.
I loved the Sarah Connor Chronicles. I'm a big Terminator guy.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
What about a movie franchise that exists that you want to be in? Would you? And I know you're a Trekkie, but would you want to be in a Star Wars movie?
I'm not a Star Wars guy. Like my brother, he was always obsessed with Star Wars, so I got away from it because he would never, he collected all the toys, had
Hmm.
all the movies, and I was like, I just stayed away from it.
But would you? I mean, Star Trek 4 by J.J. Abrams, right? How about that one?
That was interesting. That was a very interesting take, because you got young Captain Kirk, Spock.
Hmm.
I know they had no choice but to go in that direction, but I loved the first one, but the other two, they kind of went a little meh with it, if that makes any sense.
Right. It definitely makes sense. I'm definitely more of a gator myself. I love Star Wars. Star Trek, I watched the original series, in preparation of, J.J. Abrams doing it. And they are kind of true to it in a way, as much as they can be, because let's face it, some of the Star Trek movies, like number 6, weren't the best, in my opinion. But I think they kind of went off the rails and ran out of steam for a while there. But Next Generation definitely pushed back, or brought back, Star Trek into the public knowledge base. It was overdue.
Yeah, like I really loved Star Trek Generations.
Hmm.
I also there was the other one when they had to go and fight the Romulans. I keep forgetting the name of that one. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
but Generations I really enjoyed because it really tapped into that. Even though it was forced because he jumped through the Nexus, it was the time travel element.
Hmm.
You know, great storyline.
Yeah. So speaking of the storylines, then of all talk about this. There's this kind of like, I don't want to call it tropes, but the standard sci-fi shows. You have the time warp, you have the time loop, you have all that stuff. What kind is your favorite story that a sci-fi show deals with then?
Multiverses.
Multiverses.
When you wake up and find yourself in another universe that looks the exact same, but your house is owned by somebody else, and
Hmm.
you know alternate lives, and that stuff really trips me out. Like stuff that really makes you think.
Right. The what ifs essentially.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I enjoy them too, because every I say most sci-fi shows do something like that too, where something is slightly different. One thing changes, and you see the butterfly effect and the ripples that occur because of it.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing. One of the reasons why I'm kind of have this obsession with the Mandela effect.
Hmm.
People remembering things that didn't happen. And I know this is a little off subject, but did you know that in the year 2012, when everybody thought that the world was going to end, right around December 21st is when Chile had a huge earthquake? It was one of the biggest earthquakes ever recorded, and it actually knocked the planet off of its axis by a few inches, and that's when people started having memories of things that never happened. Sinbad being in a genie movie, Nelson Mandela dying in prison. It's just really interesting that the Mandela effect started getting talked about around that time.
Yeah, that's definitely true. For me, it was the Berenstein Bears. Never Berenstain, is Berenstein.
I've actually seen both, like in the wild, like it exists.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think a lot of it is chalked up to because everyone gets the famous quote from Darth Vader in Star Wars Episode 5 is like, no, I am your father. That's not the exact line that is said, but I think it, like, Simpsons kind of created that Mandela effect itself with that, because pop culture tends to kind of summarize, the true meaning behind a lot of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're always, showing us things to our faces that we won't even understand or comprehend until a little later.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, seeing The Simpsons and other people changed was, zombies eat brains. And think Night of the Living Dead was zombies ate brains. They didn't. That was not until Return of the Living Dead that canon came to be. So George Romero's original one, they didn't eat brains. They just ate body parts.
Yeah, you're talking about the scene. I remember the scene with the zombie chick, and she's like, I gotta eat brains to ease the pain.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Haven't seen that. Oh, man. Watched 28 Days Later last week.
Yeah, was that your first time?
No.
Okay.
I'm preparing myself because apparently there's another one coming out like 28 years later.
Yep.
I'm excited for that one. Like, I think they should bring back zombies, man. Like, yeah, The Walking Dead kind of killed it, but zombie movies are good.
Oh, I completely agree. But the problem is they became such ingrained to our pop culture that we have, like, Zombie High in the Disney Channel, and then they just make it stuff like that, and Warm Bodies, that it was Nicholas Hoult as a zombie, but he was in love. Okay.
I'm not gonna lie, I actually kind of liked that movie. Like, I am not ashamed to admit it. I'm not a Twilight guy at all. I just want to put that out there. But they did good with that.
Yeah, it was definitely a unique take that had never been shown before. I will give them that.
Now, was it a good take? I'm not going to say yes. But I for some reason, I enjoyed it and I was entertained.
Mm-hmm. I think Last of Us is doing a good job with bringing the fear of zombies back.
I have not watched the series, but I did, play the games, of course. I want to see how they did the clickers.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the show's fantastic. The show is absolutely amazing. It's in the second season right now, so I highly recommend it.
Well, I'm going to have to start getting caught back up on, like, newer TV shows.
Yeah.
I'm just, like I said, all I do is work.
Mm-hmm.
Finding time to watch TV or even playing, like, video games, it's getting harder and harder.
Right. Yeah. For sure. All right, Cal. Well, we are at the end of the show, so give everyone your pluggables. Where can people find you, follow, and learn everything about you and your work that's coming up?
All right, I'm on Facebook at I go by Callum Yeater on Facebook, just as my handle is on here, and my YouTube. Hold up. Can I put my YouTube link in the chat box?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, are you gonna you're gonna make me sign in? Okay.
I think I have it here too. I can put it in here for you as well.
Oh yes, if you have it, go
Yep.
ahead. Like, because I'm using my girlfriend's laptop and I
There
don't
it
have
is.
anything saved on here.
There it is.
Awesome, awesome. If y'all ever want to, get down to some conspiracies or anything like that, check out my channel.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Cal, for coming on today. And for everyone that's new, welcome, and make sure to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time. Don't get lost in the void.
Have a good night.